Hey guys, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Pardon Our Honesty. I'm Tiffany,
I'm Megan.
and today we are talking about parenting.
No. Yeah.
Parenting.
I feel like this could be a controversial subject
Hi.
based on people's philosophies or point of views. I feel like it's one of those things that people are all like, it's got to be this way, or you're wrong. When you talk about religion or
Mhm.
politics, I kind of feel like when you say, I think this, instead of like conversating about why, it's like, that's wrong. And sometimes I'm like that. I think the other day after one of our podcasts, I
Yep.
posted on social media, like, do you ever check your kids' phones?
Yep.
And a lot of people said no. For me personally, I
Yep.
was blown away by that. 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and not checking their phone. I'm not saying they're bad parents. Let me just clarify.
No.
But I'm just like blown away for me, kids get caught up in things so fast without even realizing it or not even knowing what they're in. And if we're not monitoring it to some extent at a certain young age, how do we know, or like what they're watching and listening to? Like, how do you?
You don't. How could you if you're not engaged? I mean, I think parenting is I'm training this young person who is impressionable on right and wrong for life, morals, values for life. And so, in order to do that, I have to know what they're thinking. We have to communicate, we have to talk. I mean, I don't want to be so strict that they feel like they can't talk to me, but I still want to protect them. And maybe that does mean they don't like me
Yeah.
or they won't do certain stuff because they know if I find out, it's going to be hell to pay. I just think parenting to me, we say, okay, it's too strict, but when they go out into society and things are the way they are and you break the rules, the consequences are going to be the consequences. And we don't take that into consideration because the police is not going to give two craps about my mom lets me do this. If it's
Right.
wrong, it's just wrong and you're going to get in trouble for it. So
Right.
I'm a very strict parent.
See, and when I say I feel like I'm very strict, sometimes I'm like, is that really strict though? Or is it just because nobody else does it? So like, we have 4 kids all together, right? That live in the house. We have more than that, but that have lived in the house or whatever. And for the most part, we've had certain rules, like dating rules, and we do not allow phones in the bedroom. Like they have to turn their phones in at 10 o'clock, 10:30, whatever. And like the 16-year-old is 10:30, the 17, 18-year-old who's still in high school, hers is 11.
Okay.
They don't get to take it in the bedroom, they don't get to take it in the bathroom
Yep.
with them. And people will say, oh my gosh, they're so strict. What does your kid need their phone in the shower for?
To take naked pictures
Right? Or
and
what?
send them to people,
Or
and you can never get
or
those back.
yeah, or you're just not giving your freaking brain a break. If you are scrolling 3 hours a day, 8 hours, we did the thing on our podcast about how many hours a day do you use your phone. Most people were between 6 and 8 hours. I guarantee no children answered. I guarantee you they're higher.
Probably.
So they can't take a break when they go to bed and rest their brains, and they can't get a break when they go take a shower.
I guess people would say, well, that's their own individuality, developing their person.
In their shower, in the bath. Now I'll say I take my phone to the bathroom sometimes if I know I'm going to be a minute, not in the shower, but if I know I'm going to be a minute, because like that's a moment of stopping for me. Like that's a moment to just like no other distractions as a parent or an adult or working as a 15-year-old.
Well, what if you're just listening to music?
So put it in your earbud and go to the bathroom. Why has the phone got to be with you?
Because I can't wear my earbud in the shower.
Put a speaker. We have speakers in our bathroom. We have a Bluetooth speaker.
But I don't want to leave my phone in the bedroom and connect to the Bluetooth. I might want to skip a song or something. Maybe that's what they're thinking. You're looking at me like, Winnie, now, good grief. I don't think I was that.
Okay, here's another one. What about when you have kids? We're just going to assume high school age. This is freshman to senior. Okay. So what is that? 14-ish to 18?
13 to 18.
Okay. They're dating somebody. Okay.
Yeah,
So they're dating. Do you allow them in bedrooms by themselves? Do you allow them
wow.
I understand they could be in a car driving. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. Not stupid, not naive. But in your home, do you allow them to go to the bedroom by themselves or be downstairs in the basement by themselves under blankets or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
But why? Because some people throw a fit that's so overprotective. That is so wrong.
Well, My goal for all of my kids was to make sure they got out of high school without a baby. And so in order for me to ensure you're not going to get a baby, I need to know who you're going with, where you're going. Is there going to be a parent at the house? If there's not going to be a parent at the house, then you cannot go. If I don't know their parents, you're not going. Nobody's going in no bedrooms, closing no doors, being under
So
no covers.
You know what's funny?
What?
We probably should have brought somebody in that doesn't agree with us.
No, right? Because no,
We should have brought somebody in that's like, why? Who cares? I could play devil's advocate.
Who cares? I care, because if it's a girl, the responsibility of that child that I help to encourage to get, and that's how I look at it. If I don't train you on your behavior, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, parameters, then I'm training you that that stuff is okay, and it's
Right.
not. It's
And I think on the flip side, like the girl you said, the girl ends up taking, if she were to get pregnant, she has a lot more responsibility and choices. Yes, it's the boy's choice too, but if they decided to, let's say, abort that child, that girl lives with that more than the boy. On the flip side, with the boys, I'm always super overprotective because I'm sorry, if a girl claims you did something, you are guilty until proven innocent. You are not innocent until proven guilty. So you have to protect yourself. Were you in a situation that she could say you forced something, did something? Because generally speaking, people are going to believe that that boy did something more than the girl. And some girls can be really fast, but it's going to look bad for the boy.
Well, we had a situation like that with one of our teenage boys. Young girl was sending inappropriate pictures around. They 4 or 5 of the boys to come into the police station, and they were trying to charge them with child pornography, even though she sent it.
Right.
And so I explained to him before we went and took him to the police station, you need to tell me everything that darn happened, because if you did this, then I'm going to let them throw your tail under the bus. If you didn't do this, you need to tell me what the heck happened, because I can't protect you if you're in the wrong.
Right. Right.
And
Because
so
you either have responsibility or you don't.
yeah.
Now, what do you think about curfews?
All my kids had curfews. What you need to be? My mom said ain't nothing open after 11 p.m. except legs and other stuff. What you doing out at 11?
What good things? And let's say like our area, okay, where we live right now, the city is having a meeting this week about possibly passing a curfew for 9 p.m. for anybody under, not a company with somebody under over 18, because we've had so much crime and so many incidences, and it's the youth. So a lot of the feedback has been that parents aren't parenting, they're not holding their children accountable. So how much is too loose parenting? How much is too loose where your kid, now listen, you could be the best parent, have all the rules, and your kid could sneak out that window and go rob the neighbor in the middle of the night. I'm not, but I think you see a pattern sometimes where the parents are more involved and the parents have a relationship with their kids. You see some less of that, not always, but where's the line of letting your children be children and kind of learn and experience things, and then building your children to make right decisions, not letting them go to the party just because everybody is going to the party, because some bad stuff can happen.
Curfew 9 p.m. So
I'm sure there's exceptions if they're working or they can prove you're working or whatnot, but basically a citywide curfew because of lack of parenting with the youth.
But imagine that it has to be really bad for the city to say, we're going to step in and be the parent for the children in our community.
Right. So where do you think that line is with parenting of how involved you are with the kids and how much? Now, obviously, as your kids get older, you've got to give them more rope, right? Yeah. But you can't just, I don't feel, some people might feel differently. I don't think you can just let go of the rope and be like, go at it. Whatever happens, happens. Because I feel like our job is still to, one of our daughters is out in college and I still give guidance. Like, you shouldn't really, does that sound smart? That doesn't sound like a good, so what is too much parenting and what is giving them enough rope?
I think too much parenting is they can't move without you saying, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who is that? Let me see your phone every 5 minutes. They do have to develop into their own person, but you still need to be there to give guidance and boundaries, because without boundaries, how do you know what is too far and you go too far. Like you're saying, if I'm allowing you to go into the room with a girl and you're touching all over her and you're doing things, and she comes to me and says, "Hey, Miss So and so, your son was doing this to me," and I don't say anything to you about that, that's going to be something you recognize as, oh, that's okay because mom didn't say that was wrong.
Right.
I don't feel that they should be autonomous and can do anything and everything they want. They have to have permission. You have to have a curfew because when you go to college, yeah, you might not have a curfew, but sometimes dorms do lock their doors after certain hours or say you can't have guests after certain hours. So you go there not having any rules, you're going to be like, oh, this sucks, man. You're going to try and sneak and do it anyway. So I just think teaching rules and giving guidance so that when your child goes out into society, they understand the societal norms of this is how you're supposed to conduct yourself. I think that's proper parenting. I'm not going to look at every single text message you send. I'm not going to berate you for, oh, you like this boy this week and you like that boy next week. No, because you're a young person, you're learning, you're figuring out life, whatever. But I do feel like you should have some control over where you go, how you go, and when you come in. And you need to know the parent on the other side.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't know you as a
Right. Right.
and my kid is hanging out with you, they can't come to your house.
Right.
I need to know Megan.
Right.
Me and Megan need to have a conversation.
Here's the thing about that. Let me just say this. We've had enough situations now. We have 4 kids. We have a lot more, but 4 that we 100% have been.
Mhm.
And we will have those conversations with parents and they'll say, oh, they're not allowed to do this. They're not allowed to do that. And then we find out something happens.
Yep.
We have a conversation with these parents or this child, whatever. And it was, oh, well, they were in her room. Well, you told us they weren't allowed to be in the room. So why were they in the room?
Mm.
So like, I feel like, yes, I still want to know the type of person you are, but people act, I'm learning the more we're getting involved, some of our kids didn't date as much and some of our other kids date a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're meeting a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning that people say and do one thing
Yep.
and then they do another.
Yep.
And that's hard as a parent because it's like, they want to obviously spend more time away from home, but then when you're not really sure what's going on, you have to kind of have like some kind of, one of our kids will say, y'all are doing too much. You're doing too much. And I'm like, right?
No, I'm not.
And I'm like, but then it's funny because then you hear other parents say they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do that. It's not really, but I think how many times as a parent do you hear your kid tell you that you are the only one who does this or you're too much? And so that's where I think I feel parents, I struggle all the time. I know Nick does. I'm sure there's other parents. I'm sure you have. What is too much? What is not enough? If my kid goes and does something to jeopardize their life, is that my fault? Did I make a good enough presence? Am I too strict? But see, we have this system of like, when you're younger, we're way more strict.
Yeah.
Then as you get older, we back things off based on your maturity. So if you're still doing dumb shit and you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you can't even handle your own stuff, we're not going to give you more freedoms.
No.
So
Why
that's
should
where,
you?
right. But what do you do?
We're gonna have some long come to Jesus meetings because I'm not whip your tail after you turn about 15.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some long come to Jesus meeting, and I'm gonna like once my daughter she got in trouble at school, and I was furious. I was like, this child is driving me nuts. Why do you keep getting in trouble at school? So the next day, we went up to the school, picked her up. Next day, she got in trouble for having weed. We found it in the garage. I had a friend, I was in the military. I had a friend from work come to the house and pretend to be an MP and arrest her ass. So for me, those were things that I did. I'm not going to whip you, but I'm going to show you the consequences of your actions. You finna go to jail.
Yeah.
And he literally put handcuffs on her, about to take her to jail, all of that, because I need you to be scared straight.
Yeah.
I need you to realize that the consequences for your actions are real. And so when I grew up, that was a thing, the scared straight. They would send your tail to the jail, and then you'd spend a week there or a day there, and they would have the guys talk to you all crazy. And I was like, I'm terrified to go to jail. So I just use real life experiences.
Like that's harder now. So number one, if you do any kind of physical discipline, people want to turn you in that you are abusive or anything. So that I struggle with that. Do I believe in abuse? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Do I believe in discipline?
Yeah.
I do. Now, I don't believe in the belt anymore. I don't believe in stuff like that. But sometimes I think it's necessary to have, I think there's discipline to a level as long as you're not beating them that I feel sometimes just has to get a shock or give them, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in just the soft parenting, which is fine if it works for people. I think when you have a broad range of kids and some have ADHD, some have OCD, some have, you have to, each kid's different.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I feel like anything you do is wrong. If you physically discipline, you're wrong, not abuse, physically discipline, you're wrong. If you were to send them off and ask somebody to arrest, that is so cruel. How could you do that? If you have them make a public apology, it's like that's embarrassing your child. Why would you have them do? I feel like you get persecuted more for trying to be a parent, disciplining and correcting your kid than the parent who just kind of lets them roll out and do whatever they want.
Wow. So I've never had experience. I do know when we were in Korea, I did feel like I didn't have to be as strict with them because that's pretty much a safe environment. Kids would run around town. There's CCTV everywhere. I'm thinking, "Oh, these are my good kids I've raised. They are doing fabulous. And I'm going to let them be free and be young people." Girl, those are the baddest kids when I did not have that. Where you going? Who you going with? Let me talk to the parent. Are they really staying at your house or what are they doing? They were in the streets, going to the clubs. They was drinking soju. They was having the best time of their life. And then when I found out, oh no, ma'am, the reins got tightened up. No, because you could get me in trouble over here. And I
Right.
think parents don't realize, okay, your kids' actions, they affect you. They
Yeah.
do affect you. I mean, I'm gonna look at you differently if I see Sally Mae walking up and down the street, and every time I see her, she with somebody different, or she's doing something she has no business doing. I'm gonna judge you as well
Right.
because
And
you're the person that has direct influence over what she decides to do with her life.
right. And sometimes I feel like that too, but then other times I'm like, I have seen families where everybody in the family is, you know, follows the rules, doing well, and they were all raised in the same household and, and one kid is just wide open, wide ass open. So like I don't know at that point, is it a parenting fault or is it the personality of the child that's like, do they have a trauma? Are they trying to explore. They want to, is it social pressures? Your friends? Because friends have the biggest influence in our high schoolers.
Yes.
So what do you do when you see this family and everybody is great except this one? Then what?
I'm gonna pray for them.
I mean, because sometimes I feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Well, I mean, there's always, okay, so the wild child, there are still programs out there that will take the wild child and try to, redirect them, like good social programs. I hate to say good social programs, but they do have group homes. You can take them to therapy, all of that. But if they're just hell bent on, I'm going to live this lifestyle regardless, only thing you can do is put the rules in place. And when they break them, you got to hold them to the
But
consequences.
don't you kind of feel too like our whole family goes to counseling, okay, everyone. And I'll say that to some people, like somebody reached out a few weeks ago and said their daughter is just behaving this way, that way, whatever. And I'm like, have you ever tried counseling? And it was like, I don't have time for that. And I don't have so then I feel like, well, you're saying you have a problem. What we've learned from our counselors, everything comes from a what. What is causing them? Why do they feel that way? There is a reason. Now, you may not know it. I might not know it. They may not know it.
Yeah.
They got to figure it out. So, what happens to the parent that knows there's something wrong? And are they expected, like as a society, to expect them to put them in counseling and figure it out? Or you just wipe your hands clean and go,
The society does not expect you to put them in counseling because I don't think we've embraced it as, like you're saying, a behavior problem is related to something else. We just figure that kid is bad. We're just going to label them. They got issues. And so you need to do something with them, parent. But I absolutely believe the first time I had an issue with one of the kids, and I had never heard of this happening with anybody else that I've ever talked to, I said, you got to go to therapy because I don't know how to help you with this. I
right.
don't even know what this means. I'm looking it up on the internet. Like, is this really a thing? Oh my gosh, what the world? And so I took her to therapy because I didn't want her to feel bad about it. And then I need help on how do I help her with this
Right.
issue if this is going to be something she has to deal with for the
Right.
rest of her life. So I just don't feel people believe that therapy is a way to help you
Yeah.
parent.
Well, and I think too, our kids do have, we've talked about this multiple times. I do think devices are an issue. As much time as they spend on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I am sure it's more of an influence. I think it's social media influence and then their friends and then
Oh,
parents are down here.
way down.
So you're struggling even more now as a parent
Yeah.
to overcome that friend crowd and then overcome the social media because some of these kids, oh, I got to respond or I got to get a like. Or, I mean, just this morning, one of our kids at breakfast was like, look, we got 100 views. Who cares? But that is something they're keep checking and looking at, right? So I feel like the societal pressures are bigger on children. But on the other hand, though, I think children have more like ADHD diagnoses, OCD, like opposition defiant, things like that, where as a parent, if you don't have help, you really want to lose your mind.
You're gonna
Because some of those things those kids are doing, yes, we used to do it back in the day and we weren't diagnosed with anything. But now that they have tools and they recognize, I feel like we lose a little bit too because we just want discipline. But some of it is the cause of some of those things and how we adapt as parents to accommodate that too. But I still feel like it might be a thing, but they still need discipline and structure and routine. And
But don't you think how you are raised is going to impact how you raise your kids? So for me, I had a very strict mother. She was definitely a disciplinarian and she would whip and spank and all the 9 yards. And so when I had my first child, I just repeated what I knew. And then when I learned better, like you're saying, someone saying, Tiffany, you can't just whip the kid for every little thing they do. They got to yellow. Sit down and talk to them. Have some consequences and some, hey, if you do this good, we can go and get ice cream this week or something like that. So I had to relearn how to parent. And then I think also in parenting, your social economic situations change. So maybe with the first kid, you didn't have a lot of money.
right.
You do a whole bunch of stuff. By kid number 4, oh shoot, 3 of them are gone or 3 of them got little jobs. So I got a little more money and I've gotten better pay or whatever. So we're doing things a little bit more differently. So I think as your children grow, so do you grow. So each kid that you have might have a different parent.
You know, it's so funny you say that because there's a psychologist I follow and he says that you might all be from the same household with the same parents, but they're not the same parents. They've grown, they've changed, their financial status has changed, a lot of things have changed. So you're not getting the same parent that your 4-year younger sibling got, which is true, I think. But I still think that I feel like the generations now having kids, I feel like they're very free range. I feel like the younger the parent, it's like they're either on social media with their family 24/7 and trying to be like a social media, whatever. Not all of them, but I feel like a lot of them. And there's just no parenting. Like even today, I'm going to sound like a boomer, I swear, but we went to breakfast this morning after church and I don't mind kids in a restaurant. Like they could play by me and I'm cool and I'll talk. This kid is just screaming, not crying, just screaming because they weren't paying him attention, just straight up screaming. And you turn around and they're all on their phones. All of them are on their phones. This kid, this maybe 2 years old, doesn't have a phone or anything. Just scream, not crying, just literally standing up in the booth, screaming at the top just to get attention. And none of them would. And I'm like, okay, in my brain, I'm like, okay, is this a parenting tact? Now, again, people will say, you don't know if that kid just has, okay, this kid might have something. I don't know. Just judging from the outside. Is it they didn't want to be disturbed? They didn't hear it because they were on their phones? Was it they thought we should just ignore him and he'll stop? But you're in a restaurant with a bunch of other people. And I just feel like, I don't know. For me, when Madison would do that when she was younger, I'd go to the bathroom and get her shit together. Or we would go outside, get her shit together. And then we come back inside because there's 40 other people in here that don't want to hear you screaming. And I'm trying to get you to understand how we act in public. So like, I don't know, it's hard.
You think that people will judge them? Maybe that's one of the reasons why they didn't do anything. Because if I say, hey, you better stop that, then everybody else is looking at me like,
you crazy. Yeah.
To that kid. Right, why do you do that to that
Did you
kid?
hear her yell at her child?
Or if you take them to the bathroom most of us know, "Ooh, I know why they're going to the bathroom." And then the baby come back out and they ain't crying or screaming anymore, like, okay, they got their little tail tucked up, so they done quit. Or, like you're saying, they just are thinking, okay, if we just ignore the kid, because I'm sure that's one of the parenting techniques, and they'll just stop. Or they just might be deaf to it because they're on their fun time. They're not paying attention and they don't even realize the kid is screaming. But someone like me is like, "Well, Jesus, will you please do something with your baby?"
I mean, I could see a minute or two, but I mean, it was like
No.
half the time we were there, and I'm like, wow. And it sounds, I mean, it does sound, I was judging. It sounds like I'm judging. I was judging because I'm like,
Just say hey to the kid. What
just,
do you need?
I mean, it was literally for when the waiter would come up, baby would stop because he was like, did you like your pancakes? And da 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 da, baby would stop.
So he's just looking for attention.
So then it's like, and that's just one example, but I feel like even us, like we have a conflict all the time because we do have a lot of rules. I don't feel we're over strict. Like you turn your phone in at a certain time, y'all can go, they've been hanging out with friends all week. Just tell us who you're with, what time you're going to be home and what you're doing. We'll leave you alone in the middle, but you don't show up on time, we're going to have a problem. Or you're not where you say you're going to be, we're going to have a problem.
Right.
But, but then some of our kids are very divided. Some are like, we're the best parents in the whole world. They love us. And the other ones are like, you're so strict. Nobody else does this. So I think as a parent, you're constantly questioning that. Am I too strict? Am I not strict enough? Are my kids going to be a good demonstration when they go out in public? Do they behave well at the table? Do they talk properly? Do they have manners? Are they going to make the safe decision for the people around them? Like you're constantly, because nowadays, I'm sorry, it's scary when they're out at night. People are shooting people and running people off the road just for you giving them dirty looks. So like, I don't want my kid to be the one that starts something and something happened just because they're trying to prove a point. So that discipline comes in of like how you talk to people at home should be the first stop. Because if you're allowed to talk to people at home in a certain way, you're going to do it out in public.
So I remember a long time ago, and this is from my perspective, cultural perspective, when I had to teach my son, like, okay, if you get stopped by a police officer, you could be a jerk and a hothead if you want to.
It's not going to be good.
It's not going to turn out well. And I might have to bury you because you don't know how to just do what they ask you to do so that you can get the ticket, get the warning, get the tongue lashing or whatever they're going to do to you and drive your ass home.
Right. So, and because he is a black male, he's already a target. So then I feel like you have a more duty as a parent to say, you cannot run your mouth. You might want to defend yourself and you might want to tell them they're wrong, but you have to decipher the times to do that and the times to just protect your life. Do what you're told to do so you can get home. Fight it later on social media or make a stand. But when you have somebody with a gun that statistically you're probably going to be a target just because, you have to shut your mouth. How do you get that through to them that you're not trying to be a jerk, but I'm just trying to protect you from life?
Yeah, but that's the ultimate goal of parenting. You're trying to protect your kid and prepare them for life. It's not going to feel good to them because they're going to want to buck the system and say, I am my own person. What you went through as a young adult is not the same thing that I'm going through right now as a young adult. And yes, some of that is true, but for the most part, life has not really changed that much besides social media and everything is instant. Being respectful, doing what you're supposed to do is going to keep you out of jail, keep you out of trouble, keep you from being that person that's on the TV saying this person did such, 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 such. Controlling your emotions. So yes, I'm training you by being strict and telling you don't do this because it's wrong, don't do that because it's wrong, so that you can make it to adulthood and live a great life.
So then do you feel, okay, I'm doing these things, I'm explaining to you, I'm trying to set you up for success, I'm trying to teach you about the real world. You can't go around just running your mouth to people because somebody could
off you.
Right. So when they turn 18 and they say, well, I'm going to go to college, right? Let's say, and I could do whatever I want there, but they still live at home.
No, you're not doing anything you want.
So
I
when they
move out because I was like, you staying here, there's no overnight guests because I'm not promoting having no kids out of wedlock. There still is a curfew. You're not coming in my house on in all time of night, midnight. You need to be in this house because that's when I'm turning my alarm on. And you still got rules. If you're grown, you got your own place. You can do what you want, but you live with me.
Okay. And then how much involvement do you have once they become adults? Only when they ask you? Or when you see things, you speak up? Like I have one that's out of the house and sometimes she'll say things and I want to be like, blah, 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 parent. But then I'm like, well, let's see if she asks me first. Sometimes I don't wait.
I'm the blah, 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 blah parent.
I'm blah, 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 blah. But then other times I'm like, let me just sit back and see if she's going to ask my opinion.
Sorry.
Usually she could tell from my face that I have an opinion. But at what point, yes, you're still a parent, but what point do you say, I need to wait for them to ask me before? When they're younger, you kind of just force yourself to teach them and educate them. And as they get older, you kind of loosen that leash. But when they're out of the house,
I think when they're out of the house, most of the parenting is asking thought-provoking questions for you to get to a resolution in your brain. As I'm asking you these questions and you're talking, like, shoot, I need to change what I'm doing. Like, what is your 5-year plan? Ed asks that all the time, and I hate that question. But I think it's a really good question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
And what do you need to change right now in order to get to that 5-year goal? You know, what is your plan for your life? What is your purpose? All of that.
Yeah.
I just feel like as you ask those thought-provoking questions, hopefully they'll figure out that, hey, baby, your life is a little messed up right now.
But I think that's good that you just said that too, is the questions. Like even our kids in high school right now, we say, where do you want to be in 2 years? Do you want to be in college? Do you want to be a college athlete? Because whatever you want to do, you got to start working on it now. And I wonder if that's what's missing in some families is just that conversation time. Like we still have a rule at dinner, no phones.
Yep.
So we're talking. You may not want to talk, but we're going to talk. We're going to ask questions. I feel like sometimes we're so busy now, sports and work and social media and phones. There's very limited times that families really sit and talk, not all, but sit and talk for an extended amount of time about things. And I think that's great. I mean, when we ask our kids, what do you want to do? A couple of them want to be, college athletes. Well, y'all better start changing some stuff if that's really your goal, but I don't think that I think kids think, whatever, it's going to happen. Whatever. I don't have to do anything. It's going to happen.
Baby, no.
So how long, I guess that's a good question, is how long of a rope do you have on your children? Are you hands off? Like, hey, my kids can do whatever they want. They can go anywhere with anybody. I don't check in with them. They come home when they want. I don't ever look at their phone. Like, are you completely hands off? Are you a little bit in the water with them? Like once a month, you'll check their phone just to make sure, no girls in the room and they have to be home at midnight? Or are you more like, hey, every night the phone gets turned in. They have a curfew every time for 11 p.m. Like where are you on the rope is what I am curious about.
Me?
Everybody, but you.
I am all in the weeds. The internet used to turn off at 9 p.m. Nobody, I don't care what you're doing. Nobody's using the internet, using the phone because kids are very smart. So we would take the phone. Okay, well, they got little
devices,
old phones or something.
Okay, so I'm doing my homework.
Yeah, so they just get on the Wi-Fi and they're still doing stuff. I mean, we had to evolve and get smarter as they got smarter. Like, okay, you going around the system, so we're going to put something. I had darn code on the PlayStation.
Right.
So they could not get on. Right. After we went to bed.
They say it's an addiction, especially if you have an ADHD child. It's like an addiction for the dopamine. So they need to be on a device because it's instant gratification. They say now kids have a hard time being bored. They don't know what to do with it. Like if you tell your kid to go to their room without a device, without a TV, they literally don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know how to pick up a book or play a craft or do they don't know what to do because they have constant stimulation. And that's kind of scary because a lot of good ideas come from boredom, your creativity and
yeah, I was all in the weeds. I was the very strict parent. Everybody graduated without a kid from high school.
That's what with the girls so far. They're like, we have one, but so far she's going to be 21. Beat teen pregnancy. I was like, yeah, let's keep going. Let's get through all of them.
Love that.
So, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't want to be raising a child right now.
Is something wrong with that.
Right? If they're very young, yes, I do think,
absolutely, there's something wrong with that because
you can't be 15 taking care of a baby.
Your whole life, it can change your whole trajectory. having a kid, especially if you don't have support. If the mom is like, well, you got that baby, well, it's okay. No,
Yeah.
that's not okay. So I was very strict. My kids will say I was very strict. They will say I was a terrible parent. I do feel like parents who are really strict have a lot of guilt because we are judged very harshly, as well as parents who don't have any rules. We're judged very harshly for you didn't let the kid become an independent. They still are going to depend on you and they're like this because you were so strict or you traumatized them, blah, 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 or vice versa for the parent that's, hands off or whatever. So I just think you got to do the best for what you feel that child needs
Yeah.
to be
Do the
a
best with what you know.
productive
Yeah.
person in society. And therapy can help you,
Yeah.
give you different parenting skills and tips and styles, and help you address, like you're saying, each kid is an individual. So this kid, I might can yell and they'll get their shit together. This kid, I might have to take everything
out of
you
his
own out of your room for you to get this
Yeah.
message that this is not okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to screw up your life if you keep going down
But
this
you know what's
path.
funny is there was a girl on social media the other day that posted that her daughter was running her mouth, slammed the door, or whatever. So they took the door off the hinges and got rid of like all this stuff that she. And it was interesting to read the comments because most of the comments were in favor, and some of them were like, "Isn't that extreme? And is this the best way to parent?" And I'm like, everybody is a critic of, but maybe yelling wouldn't affect that child. Maybe not having the privacy with the door on is what is going to affect that child. Maybe not long term, but enough to not slam the door again. So like I feel like people criticize parenting so much.
Yeah.
And then I feel like you have to have people you could go to. Like I will go to you and say, "What do you think?" But I have people of different ages, different backgrounds, and different sex and say, "Hey, with my daughter, with my son, this is the scenario. What do you think?" I mean, there's more people in my life that brought my attention to basically the sexual activity of children. I was naive to. And, when those people were truthful and talkative to me, I was like, okay, let me like address or talk about this. But I feel like some people like get offended. Like my daughter had a friend once and I was just trying to conversate. We were trying to make a decision if we were going to let one of our daughters go do something. And I reached out to this other mom and I didn't mean it negatively at all, but I was just like, well, you let them do this and this, and I'm the paranoid parent, like saying that I'm the paranoid parent. I don't really let her do that. So I'm really nervous about this. And they got very defensive. And it wasn't that I was saying they were a bad parent. I just was recognizing how much more strict I was. And am I prepared to let this child go do this? And so I feel like sometimes being able to conversate with parents freely, just like in politics or religion, can we not just have a conversation without attacking each other? And you say, Megan, you're a little harsh, or Megan, you really should be more involved. Like, without being offended, because I think what happens then is we get offended and we take it personal. It hurts our feelings.
Bad parent. Oh my God. I'm just trying to do the best for my kid that I can. And I do think you should be able to bounce it off other people because I don't think if I hadn't have met my mom, my adopted parent, I would have been that crazy lady that's just beating the kids for no reason. And they would have really turned out bad. So
it was my friend. When I had Madison, my husband at the time was deployed all the time. My family's nowhere here. I had nobody. That woman, she helped me. I didn't know how to raise a child. I was a child. I didn't know how to raise a child. And, I remember one day I was like, God, Madison will not stop whining. Like, this is ridiculous. And she was like, Megan, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you let her watch, I think it was called Caillou or something. If you pay attention, all they do is whine on there. And then it was like, oh my God, like it just took somebody to make me recognize it. I didn't get mad at her. I was like, I'm turning that shit off, and in a week or like when she would misbehave, Madison is emotional more than she was physical. She got spankings, but one day Connie was like, make her run laps. They're out there running.
I'm telling you, yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't have thought of that, because I knew the spanking didn't bother her, but she didn't like to exercise. So, so I feel like you've got to be able to have people help you. It's not just you against the world. There are positive people. Now, if somebody's telling you to lock them in a closet and don't feed them, that's obviously abuse. Yeah. You read about that stuff, and I just don't know how people can do that. But I think for me, it's hard when I see people do nothing. And it's none of my business, but I just see some of these kids, especially now that our kids are exposed to more kids and I see different things, I'm just like, they can do anything. And these parents have they'll come home and tell me some of the stuff. And I'm like, our parents have no idea. They're like, no. I'm like, Like, I know kids get away with stuff. I'm sure our kids get away with stuff.
We got away with stuff.
I got away with stuff, but I feel like not to the level of just not being involved. I think if you're involved at all, you'll catch something eventually.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm overprotective and strict, but not prison-like. I mean, our kids get a lot of things and do a lot of things within limit.
Yeah, and I think that's fair because in life you're gonna do a lot of things and get a lot of things within limits. And if
Right.
you don't stay within those limits, the consequences ain't nice for you.
Right.
They're not nice for you. All right.
Yeah.
So, which side are you on as far as parenting?
Yeah.
You on the strict
I'm
side.
on the strict
I'm on the
side.
strict side too. Go team strict.
Yeah. Freedom within limits. That's where I'm at.
So, all right, guys, this has been a conversation on parenting. Which side are you on? Are you hands off, a little bit in the mix, or just, hey, you better do what I say or else? Let us know in the comments down below. If you got a topic you want us to cover that's too taboo and you just want us to talk about it, we'll talk about it for you. So add that
Send
to
it
the
over.
comments too.
Yeah.
And until next time, bye.